Right, here we are back on this GEC radio. I'm having to revert to using the Sony Bloggy at the moment because I've got a little issue with my more expensive video camera, so hope the quality is okay anyway. So the last thing before I ended the last video was respraying this white panel where the paint was flaking off, and I've done that. It's turned out pretty well. Unfortunately, Mr. Idiot behind the camera here didn't undo the wire to this capacitor here, and it pulled straight out of the capacitor body just there. It's a little 15 pf capacitor. So I've gone online. Of course you can get 15 pf capacitors, no problem, but getting these little polystyrene ones is a bit of an issue. I've got maybe 50 or 60 of other sorts that I use for you know, padding the aerial circuits on valve radios, and they're all rated at 630 volts. These are rated about 160 volts, so I've got 5 of them. And I also bought some 45 pf ones, so we can you know, I've got 100 pf, 220, 180, so we can maybe combine them to get lower and higher values. But anyway, I've got the correct parts here, so what I'm going to do is put it all back together. I've given the wave change switches a dose of cleaner. We're going to put it all back together and get it all wired up again. And I really don't like these radios where you have to unsolder bits to pull them out. Not the greatest. Thankfully I took loads of pictures. So I'll just get set up for soldering, and we'll get started. Right, I've got the new capacitor soldered into the area. I didn't show it because I made an absolute pig's ear of it. I didn't want to burn this plastic tube here, and it was quite awkward to get the soldering iron and the solder sucker round at the same time, but you know, I did it in the end. But you know, it was much easier without the camera sort of sitting there. So next thing is it goes back in the case. There's the capacitor I moved, little 15 pf polystyrene capacitor between the car aerial circuit and the rest of the you know, the aerial circuits. So I guess it's loaded by 15 pf into the FM unit. I don't think it's really important. I certainly won't be using it with any sort of FM aerial plugged into there. Right, let's get the thing back in the cabinet. And I'm going to knock the camera, undoubtedly. And it's a good job I remembered where all the wires go. I did take lots of pictures. Right. As I say, I will knock the camera. Bound to. Right. Up we go, up there. And then come on. And then not stopping it. There we go. So it's up in the cabinet now, like this. And I need to solder all the wires out and fish the... Sorry, I need to solder the wires back up and fish the speaker wires from under there. In the meantime, it's got this bolt that fastens the board to the speaker as a support. It's quite unusual, I haven't seen that before. So I do those up, and there's 2 more bolts that go up here, here and here. But I'm just going to look at my references. There's a screw that holds that up. I'm going to look at my references and make sure I've got all the wires routed round the correct way, and we'll be good to go. Right, here we go. I hope this is not going to be too awkward. Right, we've got one speaker wire goes to this connection, the black one goes onto there, and the green one goes to there. I might actually go over this board because some of the soldering looks a bit dry and horrible. Let's put a little bit more solder on there. Tricky is not to have too much time on the board. Great, that's popped off. Just as I thought it might. In case you lift the PCB board traces, if you put too much heat on, they can sometimes spring off because they're like copper foil, and they might spring off, and then they crack and then they break. And you know, especially if you're new to this and this is your first time doing a transistor radio, just be very careful. There's a little round, each trace will end in a circle with a hole punched through it, or etched through it, so the component lead can come through. If you're not very careful and you heat it up too much, sometimes it can crack. So when you pull a component out from the other side, it can pull the little hole thing here off completely. Right, and the meter went to here, so the blue lead goes there. That's not important at the moment, I guess. And just to backtrack a little bit, I didn't replace the transistors in this because they're still working. Now, I have had not a lot of luck with the AF series transistors, but I've also had one or two sets where they just continue to work. So I don't know why, I don't know how, but there we go. I don't know why and I don't know how, but I've had like an Ever-Ready Sky Leader, which was quite a cheap set, you know, with them still working, and I've had quite an expensive set with them still working, so I don't know whether there's any sort of middle ground or rhyme or reason why. Right, let's switch the soldering on off. I think we're done as far as soldering. The rest of the thing are just the aerial circuits and the I think that's the earpiece maybe, or the tape socket there. But I've got instructions, what I wrote, just to make sure I connect the leads up right away, even though I've taken photos. Right, this is sort of the moment of truth. Oh no, I've got to do that, idiot, I've got to do that capacitor lead, haven't I? Which is stuffed right up there, and of course this has turned out to be a bit of a nightmare. Well, I don't need it for now, particularly because I've just lost the flipping insulation off it. Oops. I'm going to have to bang the radio about a bit, I think. See if that drops down or something. There it is. Thank you very much. I'm sure it won't stop the aerial circuits from working, but you just never know. So, there we go. that a little tin. Okay, and we'll pull that off. Pull that off, we'll stick that on in its stead. Okay. We'll fire it up. Let's get a battery. Let's see what it sounds like. Right, the volume's right down. Before I scare the hell out of everyone. Okay. Well, we seem to have a bit of FM action.
One should question, is this discriminatory that you say?
That says FM. I haven't got the control knobs.
Luton looks to break now down the right hand side of O'Donnell. Forward to Hilton, who touches it away from the centre half, but Dickinson is back there covering. Gets it back to Colin, and the goalkeeper clears up towards the halfway.
Good. Oops, sorry, not the camera again. There we go. That all seems to be fairly good, fairly well. I'll start again. That seems to all work fairly well. Right, next thing is to get all these wires back in place. I'm sure you don't want to see that. Oh, here we go, and here's the radio all back working. Let's just swing it round. I soldered all the loose wires up. So yeah. One thing I did notice is, see this strap here with the two screws in it? I think there should be one on that side as well that's missing. Now this is made out of very, very compressed sort of fibre-y paper stuff. It's the same stuff as used as the cord retention grip in UK mains plugs. I've never seen it in that bigger sort of size though, so I don't know where I could get that from. I might just have to bodge something up, but it doesn't seem to need it. It's certainly held in solid by the three, bolts and that. But the next thing is moving on to the cabinet cleaning. I haven't touched this chrome and it's all pitted and marked. This needs cleaning. There's all paint spots all over it, and of course the Rexing needs a good old clean. And then the next major bit is re-padding this foam backboard. I'll turn it off. Re-padding this foam bit here, and then we're ready to go. And I can tell you something, this radio is really quite punchy. Very, very loud. I have the volume knob.
Tottenham had that lead through a rather debatable penalty. Vincent.
That's not even a quarter of the way. It's really quite loud. Yeah, looking forward to hearing it when it's all back together and I've got that backboard padded out for a little bit of added bass. Yeah, should sound pretty good, especially in a wooden cabinet as well. Anyway, another thing that's going to be an issue for cleaning that I'll point out is these sockets here. If the camera is in focus, I don't think it is. You can't really extract these without ruining them. They're held in place by like a Starlock washer that you've almost got to break before you can get these out. So I'm going to have to put like a circular masking tape around these just to get this verdigris off, because I think they're chrome underneath, or they should have been chrome underneath. If I don't do that, I'll scratch this acetate plate thing here. Right, there we go. This non-slip mat that I bought today is pretty good, and it'll stop scratches and stuff, but it's that sticky that when you pick the stuff up, it comes with it. So it moves about all over the place. Yeah, you can hear it. Right, thanks for watching.